Right, hi. This is my 14 chakra tarot reading for the new year and the first few months of 2024. I reckon it's about the first 3 months. And these are the questions that I asked when I was pulling the cards. They are, what can we expect energetically for those first few months? And how can we meet that in ways that align with our highest good and to raise humanity to a greater level of consciousness and unity? Now, this is a list of the 14 chakras or energy centers that I connect to throughout the reading. I'm not going to go through them all, but if you're interested, you can screenshot this. It's basically a list and where they're located inside and around the human body. This is the signifier for the whole spread. The signifier is a card that contextualizes all the cards that follow, and it stays out throughout the entire spread. It's, as you can see, the Hanged Man reversed. So the overall energy for this reading is one of pause. Now, this is a pause that may hold some tension. It's not necessarily the kind of pause which is like, hey, I'm kicking back my heels. This is kind of a peaceful and relaxing time, because the pause may not feel entirely within our control or be a choice that we've made. Now, this could manifest as just feeling low on energy, not quite enough petrol in the car, physically a bit tired, difficult to carry on with the same momentum that we've been carrying on. This can be or feel as though because it's of something to do with external circumstances, just something that's going on, stuff that's going on globally, stuff that's going on for us in our communities or even individually. Or it could be something along the lines of a lack of faith, a lack of really feeling the direction that we want to be going in, that we want to be aligning to. Now, that doesn't sound so positive, right? But there are always positives. There are always opportunities in these. So even if this is something that we do experience, the opportunity is something quite unique to the Hanged Man. It's to be able to look at things from a different perspective. Now, he's reversed here, so he looks like he's standing up. Maybe he's even doing a little dance. But when he's upright, he is hanging upside down. And when we look at things upside down, we see the same things from a different perspective. They look a little bit different. And so this is the opportunity here to really take stock and be open to seeing things slightly differently, maybe even seeing new things, expanding our awareness. And another aspect of the Hanged Man when he's reversed is that there is a point when the light goes green, when the pause is over, when maybe it's to do, and I will connect the cards that follow to this. There will be guidance on and opportunities in how to fill up, how to get the maybe it's a bad analogy, but it's what's coming to mind right now. Getting there enough petrol in the car in order to be able to move forward. And things will change so that the light goes green, things become clearer. But the indication is really to take the time before then to open up and, just welcome any opportunities to see what has not been seen in quite the way that it's being presented to date. Okay, so this is what the spread looks like. It's a lot of cards. I'm not going to stick with this slide, but again, you can screenshot it if you want. It's got a brief description of the energies of the various chakras. And this is the way that I drew the cards for each of them. So the first card, and actually it turned out that it wasn't necessarily always one card for each question. Sometimes there were two, sometimes there were more. But if there had been one card, which was the idea when I started, the first card would have been an answer to the question, what is the general energy of and guidance for this chakra, this particular energy? 2, what should or could we do more of? 3, what should or could we do less of? And 4, what should or could we carry on doing? And I have those third 3 cards, I have to give credit to Bridget Esselmont of Biddy Tarot for. It's a beautiful little 3-card spread, which can be used in so many ways on its own or as part of a larger reading like this. And I keep coming back to it because I find it so useful. Right, so I'm going to start by looking at the lower body chakras, the ones that are in the body, in the human body, the root, the sacral, the navel, and the solar plexus. And they are the ones that are most associated with our physical human experience. And the first one, here we go, the root. And the root is located pretty much at the base of the spine. And it is the one that is most associated with physical security, you know, literal survival. So do I feel safe? Do I have shelter? Is there enough food? Am I in community? Do I feel safe in my community? That basic level of being a physical being. And the energy for that is the 4 of Swords reversed. And that is an invitation to think, contemplate, make the time to reflect. Remember the Hanged Man reversed. In however it manifests, it looks like we are going to have that opportunity, should we choose to take it. And this is the, on a very basic level, the energy of that card is Swords, which is the element of air, which is about thinking, communication. It's associated with the mental body. So really, are we living? Am I living? Are we living in the way that we want to? What's right? What's wrong? You know, really take that time to consider it. And with the stained glass window, which, because it's reversed, is in the bottom right hand corner of that card, is also to connect to the spiritual, connect to the higher guidance, to aid that contemplation and to gain some clarity. So then we've moved to what could we do more of, the 7 of Wands. And that is a card that basically says stand your ground. It's fire element, so this is kind of what we've gut feeling. It's also one way of looking at the minor arcana in the tarot is through the lens of the old feudal system, and the Wands represent the people who work the land, right? So this is about us, you know, the people of the world, and it's about standing our ground. And he's on a hill, this character, and he's standing his ground against those who do not have quite the same perspective as he does. So when we know what is right, or at least what we believe to be right, it's standing our ground. It's not fighting, right? It's not attacking, but it's defending our position. And when we look at the card next to it, the 6 of Wands, which is in the position of what to do less of, it's not about winning. This isn't about defeating anybody. It is simply about defending our position, but it's not a battle, if that makes sense. I hope it does. And we move to carry on doing. It's a different element. It's the element of water. And so this is more to do with the emotions. And if you look at those cups in the foreground, they're all stacked neatly, right? So the character is moving away from them. He's left them behind, but not in a disordered way. So for us, it's about what doesn't make sense anymore. Are there things that we're attached to that really we shouldn't be attached to anymore because they're not useful to us? Are there emotions we're attached to, like resentment or perhaps animosity towards another group of people or another person? Are there stuck emotions that we've been working through that we are now able to leave behind us? Because as he has been able to leave them in an ordered fashion, so it's not running away, he then can move and find the path to wherever he's heading towards. And he doesn't necessarily know where that is yet, but he's able to do that. So that's the root. Now let's move on to the sacral. Now the sacral energy is one that I associate with the womb, and that's whether we're physically male or female, we all have this energy. It's an energy of creativity, of self-love and relationship with others. It's also sexual energy. It's a very beautiful energy, and when we really connect to it and it's clear, it gives us this wellspring of where a lot of our inspiration can come from. And it can be very powerful. So when we look at the cards, the general energy is the Fool reversed. And I'm reading this as a kind of double message. There's a sense of don't carry on blindly without contemplation, again referring to that Hangman reverse, but also what we just saw in the root, taking that time to really contemplate. And also it's a time for us, again individually and as communities and globally, to connect with that sacral energy, go within. And then the other aspect of the Fool is have faith in that ability that we have to create, to make, to create community, to really do some beautiful stuff, and honoring that. So what can we do more of? So we've got the Ace of Cups reversed, and we've got the Hermit, who is facing in the direction of the Ace of Cups. So there's more indication that contemplation is a good idea here. And what the Hermit is looking at is literally, this is how I often am shown that sacral energy. Okay, it's reversed here, so we're looking at something that's internal, but as a fountain, that really there's so much that can emanate from there that's very pure and very beautiful. So really connect to that. It's a powerful place from which to receive a certain kind of guidance. So yeah, take the time, go within, do less of. We've got the Knight of Coins. That's an earth energy. Now this is the stillest of all the knights. He's not even moving at all, is he? And what this card suggests is not in this area, in that area of creativity, which is a very female, the divine feminine is very much part of that sacral chakra, is to not get too pragmatic in this area. When we're creating, it's not all about, well, how can we turn that into material stuff? How can we earn money? That is important, yes, but we're looking at this particular kind of energy. We can constrict and constrain our creativity and that sort of welling up of very pure love for our communities, for ourselves, and for other people, if we get too bogged down by pragmatism in this area. And what can we carry on doing? We've got the Four of Wands reversed, and that's about celebrating our sense of community, really understanding that when we create, we can create so much when we do it together. And that's together with family, friends, people that we know very well, but again, looking at community as a whole and globally. So there we've got the sacral. And moving on to the navel. Now, the navel's an interesting one. It's not necessarily one of the traditional chakras. And whereas I have talked about the chakras in the lower part of the body connecting to being on the physical plane. And in general, I think of the bodily chakras as having a sort of up and down connection, that the lower ones connect more to the earth. But the navel is slightly different in that it kind of connects sideways. It's about unity consciousness, how we see ourselves as community, as being connected to other people, right? So what we've got in the position of the general energy for the navel is the Knight of Wands reversed. And that he's very different from the Knight of Coins that we just had. This one's the element of fire. You can see he's moving into the future. And it's an indication of being guided by what we know to be right in our gut. There's not a lot of, there's not much indication for being led by the head here. This is much more about the gut, possibly also the heart, and to move forward, not too slowly either. You know, let's connect with other people. It's really quite a forceful message to do that, and to be guided by that fire element when we do so. What do we do more of? The Ace of Coins here. Now, aces are often opportunities. They're also can be seen as the beginnings of cycles, and as it's earth energy, there's something here about looking at the opportunities to build, right? And this coin is being offered by a hand that's coming out of the cloud. So there's also a message here about whatever inspiration we get, to bring it into the physical, to bring it home. It's not so much about, how can I put it? There are opportunities presented, but we need to work with them. We need to create. This is very much about how we do that within our communities, and how we might also be able to help each other. There's a lot of chaos out there. There's a lot of need. And so what can we do for each other, right? And in an earthly way, in quite pragmatic and practical ways. And what might we want to do less of? Oh, this is a page, youthful energy. So, and because it's in this position and because it's reversed, I read this as to move away from any kind of ungrounded, mindless chatter. It could be gossip. It could be the way that we can find ourselves distracted. And how many invitations are there to be distracted for, I'd say most of us, right, through the internet, the just general noise there is out there, which we know is fairly frivolous and has the ability to really, in quite a fundamental way, distract us from what our hearts and our guts know has much more value. So to try and distance ourselves from that. And then in the position of carry on doing, this is an interesting duo of cards. We've got the High Priestess reversed, again, a very feminine energy. This woman has the ability to hold a balance between dark and light, the unconscious and the conscious, the magical world and the profane world. She kind of sits, she's kind of a portal to being able to hold a whole lot of chaos, which is indicated by the Tower. The Tower always indicates change, and change that happens to us. So on the level of this navel energy, so the way we connect with other people, we're already used to a fair amount of chaos and change, and it seems to indicate that that's not over, that there's more on the way, but that we can carry on making the best sense of it that we can through this energy of the High Priestess. And it's quite easy to be distracted away from that by that sort of Page of Swords energy when it's in its less helpful form. So the kind of chatter. But if we really connect ourselves to that as best we can, we are invited to do so, to help move forward, because that energy of the Knight of Wands is about moving forward. So the next one is the solar plexus. And the solar plexus is an energy center that is actually all about our energy. So it's like our own batteries. I think of it sometimes as our own little personal suns. It's kind of between where the navel, our actual physical navels are, and the bottom of the ribs, right there. And it's also connected to nutrient absorption, which makes sense because we need to absorb the stuff that we're putting into our bodies, right? Well, in order for our batteries to work well. And the first card here, the one that describes the general energy of the solar plexus, is the 8 of Coins. And the 8 of Coins is a guy who's taking a lot of care in making what he's making there. So it's coins, so it represents actual stuff, and it is about our energy, right? This isn't a quick job. He is an artisan. He has patience. He knows that the rewards for what he's doing, he hasn't got them yet, but they will come as he puts the work in. And indeed, there is no quick fix to restoring depleted energy. Remember again, the Hanged Man reverse. There's the sense of maybe a sense of having depleted energy. So put the time in, put the attention and the care into this, because we need our batteries to be at an optimum level in order to function the best way that we possibly can, because everything else, like all the lower chakras, actually they kind of form the basis from which all the higher ones need them. We all need strong foundations, right? So care and attention. What can we do more of here? We've got the Queen of Swords looking forwards, and the 10 of Cups. The Queen of Swords is the no bullshit woman. She, it's the element of air, so clarity of thought, absolute clarity of thought. And the queens are, they've mastered their element, but they don't necessarily express it in the way that the kings do. So this isn't about going out there and sort of exposing things all over the place. It's about seeing clearly and having that ability to do it, connecting to it. We can see clearly, and seeing clearly that one of the most powerful fuels, if you like. So it is about physical stuff, this looking after our energy. It is about eating the best that we can in the circumstances that we're in. But it's also about celebrating our community, celebrating our families, because one of the best and most powerful fuels is joy and laughter. And she's very clear on that. So that's something for us to do more of, to really focus on that as best we can and to fuel it, because it, of course, it's a sort of virtuous cycle. The more we focus on it, the more we fuel it, the more we're able to focus on it. So we are invited to do so. And what are we invited to do less of? Looking at strength reversed. And this came through in quite an interesting way. It's about recognizing that we have control over our own energy, that it's not something that we can, we can give it away, but it's not something that anybody else can take. We are the masters of our own energy. To a great extent. Sometimes external circumstances make that difficult. But it's also about that gentle strength, the strength that comes from love and connection. It's not about overpowering, right? So it's again, it's got more than one message to it. And what do we carry on doing? It's the King of Coins reversed. two aspects to this again. So it's carry on connecting to our own mastery. So whereas I was talking about the queen having a mastery that she doesn't necessarily need to express, the kings do express their mastery. So it's a mastery over our energy on a very practical level. It's the element of earth. And it is also not something that can be stored up and hoarded. We can store up resources, sure, but energy itself needs to flow. So this is looking at the fact that he's reversed. So it's about having that mastery, but also knowing that energy can't be hoarded. It needs to flow. We're looking back at that 10 of cups as well, that it's very much fueled as much as we possibly can by joy, by looking for where there is joy to be looked at and to be connected to, finding it, focusing on it, and remembering that there is no real quick fix here. This takes care. Now, what we're going to do is move on to the heart and the higher heart, which can be thought of as a bridge between those lower body energies we just looked at and the higher bodily energies, which are more connected with our etheric selves and our spiritual natures. So here we go, the heart. And we have strength again. Was she reversed in the last one? Yes, so we've got an inner strength. We connect to that inner strength. And it's in a different position here. So this isn't about, protecting it or believing that other people can take it. This is about simply recognizing the strength of our hearts. So the heart is to do with our ability to give and receive love. It's the bridge between the lower and the upper energy centers, as I've said. And it's also a portal to that really deep wisdom and knowing that is so different from our head energy. Well, our head energy is really useful. We don't want to do without it. It can also distract us sometimes because it's inclined to want to keep us safe. So it can distract us with a lot of chatter because one thing that their head doesn't like is to step into the unknown because it feels as though it's unsafe. That's oversimplifying, obviously, but it's an aspect of it in comparison to the heart. The heart knows so much and has a very different kind of language. It's stiller, it's quieter, I was about to say slower, but there's a more timeless quality, perhaps is more accurate to say, about that incredible knowledge that is contained within the heart energy. And that fits so well with this beautiful, beautiful card, this recognition of the incredible strength that there is there, which is not to be conquered, not to be overpowered, but met with love. And what are we being invited to do more of? We've got the same card again, reversed this time, the Eight of Coins. So it's about recognizing that the stuff of the heart, which can often be represented as a little bit cute and floaty, little love hearts on a card and things like that. It isn't all about that. The connecting to the heart and nurturing that heart energy, really getting to know the language of the heart, takes diligence, it takes care. And again, it takes patience. So an invitation to do more of that. We are being given that opportunity, it would appear, thinking Hanged Man reversed again. So this is a way, one of the ways to use it. What are we being invited to do less of? We have the Fool reversed. Now, it's an interesting one. I love the Fool. When he shows up in the do less of, it takes me a little while to adjust. But here he is. And there's an aspect here of how I just described that, how that heart energy can sometimes be thought of, a little bit fluffy and cute. It's about not connecting with that, not dismissing the heart and not going sort of blindly forwards without taking that care that's indicated by the Eight of Coins reversed. I think of the Lego songs sometimes. I don't know if you've seen the Lego movie. I can't even remember how the songs go, but right at the beginning, all the people are singing this song about how everything's great and everything's lovely, and just carry on doing whatever they're doing, sort of fueled by this lovely, lovely song, without any consideration or thought. No, we are being invited to connect to the wisdom of the heart and listen to what she's saying. And what do we carry on doing? Again, the Kings. You'll see that quite often in this reading, the cards build on the cards that came before. So there's a fair bit of repetition in this way. So King of Coins again, mastery, ground it into our realities here. It's not an energy you might initially associate with the heart. And I think that this set of cards is an invitation to take it more seriously, or give it more weight. And perhaps that is, if we think of scales sometimes, well, often we are encouraged, no less, to give our heads more weight, to give our intellect more weight than our intuition and our feelings. And so this is a nod to saying perhaps it's time to balance those scales a bit more. So here we go. We have the high heart. The high heart is the gateway to the higher chakras, really. So the one way of thinking of it could be the more spiritual aspect of the heart energy. It governs the thymus gland too, which is connected to or part of our immune system. And it's also linked to the throat. So when we move to the throat is about communication, the way that we communicate to others, but also in many ways the way we receive communication. But the high heart has something to do with birthing the intention of our communication. So it's a really beautiful energy to look into. There's also aspects of compassion here and again connection to others. So in the position of the general energy of the high heart, we've got the Six of Cups. Now, all the cards have several meanings, but here I think this card is to do with accessing and connecting to the purity and honesty of the inner child, right? If a child is hungry, they'll say they're hungry. If they're tired, they might not say they're tired, but it will be very clear that they're tired, right? If they're cross, they'll act cross. They don't filter in the way that adults learn to do. So there is that innocence and purity too. So this is what we're being connected to. And that's how we really, when we communicate, there's really that invitation that's how we want to communicate. We don't want to sort of create confusion or put layers of obstructions, if you like, between what we're feeling and what we're saying, what we want to communicate and what we actually want to communicate. So this is about how do we want to communicate? And really, there's so many ways we can talk about the inner child, and there's much said about healing the inner child, but this is about allowing the inner child to have more space. What does that inner child actually want to say and be? What does it want? We need to listen. And then we've got 3 cards in the position of what to do more of. We've got the Empress, Temperance, which I've spelt wrong, sorry, reversed, and the 5 of Cups together. So Temperance, the card that's in between the 2 of them, which is reversed, is to do with maintaining balance. It's also got an association with not overdoing anything. So balance of all kinds. So there is a nod to that, but also because it's between the other 2 cards, I say it is about maintaining a balance between the energies of the Empress and the 5 of Cups. So the Empress, beautiful energy, very feminine, again, the divine feminine, creator, Mother Nature, planet Earth herself, Venus, there's all that. She's very still, she's very serene, she's absolutely confident in who she is, and her power should not be underestimated. We are seeing a movement towards an understanding and an appreciation of what the divine feminine energy is. It's not all about nurture and caring and being kind, though that is part of it. It's immensely grounded, immensely powerful, and so much linked to absolute raw creativity, which can sometimes be a bit chaotic, and that's another aspect of the balance that we need in general, not in this reading here, but between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, right? But here this is about that earth, beautiful, also an appreciation of nature energy. And then we've got the Five of Cups, so water again, emotions, unconscious, also to do with creativity. But what you can see here is the figure is looking at the cups that have been knocked over, so whatever's spilt there, and he's mourning, he's grieving. And it is right to grieve. It is right to mourn what has been lost, and there has been so much lost. If we look at what has been going on for a very, very long time, right? But even very recently and right now, there is a lot of loss. There's a lot to grieve, and that needs to be done. But we need a balance. To stay there leads to stagnation, leads to the kind of energy that doesn't help anybody. It can lead to a sort of state of powerlessness and victimhood. When I should say, that character turns around, he sees he's still got those two cups that haven't been knocked over, and he needs to turn around in order to be able to see the path that leads to the bridge, which takes him over the river to wherever it is that he wants to go. The way he's facing right now, he can't see the bridge. So it is about maintaining that balance as best we can. We need to mourn, of course we do, but we need to move on from that as well. And that could go in cycles. It's not necessarily linear, but it would not help us to stay in that position. And then we've got to do less of. Now, this knight is a lovely energy, but as he's in the position of to do less of, it's about not being over romantic. I sometimes think of this guy, he's composing a poem in his head, he's holding his heart in his hands, and he's heading off towards the maiden that he, I don't know if he even knows where she is, but he's looking for a maiden to rescue, something like that. And so maybe not so much of that. You know, we've already seen many cards that are to do with bringing stuff into reality, and we've got in the position of what to do more of maintaining a balance that is really quite grounded in reality. And okay, yes, we've got the inner child, but the inner child isn't a fantasist. Whereas the Knight of Cups in this position indicates that he may be. So less fantastical thinking that isn't grounded in something that is absolutely real, which the Empress energy certainly is. And then we've got that wonderful Queen of Swords again. What do we carry on doing? Really use our acuity, use our ability to see through that which may seem a bit cloudy and unclear. She's looking back at everything, and she's laser vision. What makes sense? What fits here? And again, going back to where we are, we're at the high heart. What do we want to communicate with what purpose? And let it sort of percolate there in a way that is most true and to that purity of the inner child. Okay, now we're moving on to the upper body chakras, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And these are the ones that are more connected to our spiritual selves. And I mean, this is as though we are our physical selves and then separately our spiritual selves. Of course not. We are just simply beings, of which these are just aspects, but it is quite helpful to break it down in this way, to look at how we might utilize the different aspects of ourselves in the best way that we can. So here we're at the throat. Already talked about that a bit. It's about communication, speaking our truth, doing our best to access the truth as far as we can see it, and communicating that clearly from the heart, from that high heart that we just looked at. So here we are. We've got the Two of Wands in that first position. And that says to me, think before you speak. Fire energy at the beginning of a journey. This is a character who's got a globe in his hand. He is planning a journey. He's looking out to sea. He's planning on going, but he is planning. He's in a safe position, and he's not actually acting yet, but he's considering what is the best path, what is the best way for me to go. And that's the invitation here. Think before we speak. And then 3 cards again for the what can we do more of. So the Hierophant, I think that's his first appearance here, isn't it? So the Hierophant is somebody who has, he's like a theologian. He's got a lot of sort of spiritual information that can sometimes be quite dry, that can sometimes be dogmatic, that can sometimes not be the best energy if it seeks to control, but it can also be a wonderful energy. So it depends on its orientation. But we've got those 2 cards that we had from the last one. So you can see how these are building, can't you, on the ones before? Again, we've got the Empress, who, let me just check, I think she was last time, she was upright, yeah. So this is more about the inner divine feminine. So it is, again, more about being and feeling rather than thinking and being very intellectual about things. And again, that inner child, so connecting to that, what when we speak, we want to speak in the most creative way. We don't want to destroy anything. We don't want to create anything that is unhelpful, right? So the Hierophant energy can guide us with that. But we, combined with the other 2, it sort of combats the potential dryness and dogma of it. So whereas the Empress energy, like I said, it can occasionally be in its pure creative form, can be somewhat chaotic. She balances the potential dryness and staidness also of the Hierophant, so that we've got something that can really be quite powerful. 2 major arcana cards there. So really, let's create something that is useful with our communication, with that energy of the throat, and what to do less of. An odd one, I thought, at first when I saw it, because it's such a beautiful energy. We've also seen that one before. But as it's in this position, I'd say it's something to do with not taking everything that we're given as gospel. So you see how it's almost as though, the sort of the dove is dropping something of value into the cup. So there might be a communication that seems to just drop into our awareness, into our consciousness. So maybe not taking that as gospel without considering it. I mean, it may be, but with, the sort of going back to the think before we speak. There's something about not just repeating whatever we hear if we happen to feel that we like it, without really thinking about why are we saying it and what we want to achieve, and does this really make sense, and was this something that was as true or useful as I thought it was when I first heard it. And the Fool has come back. He's here again, reversed again. So what to carry on doing, because it's in this position this time. This is about have the faith, the courage to maybe sometimes say something that we're a little bit nervous to say, or to basically step off that cliff, whatever that means, whatever that means to us as individuals, whatever that means to a group of people who might be wanting to communicate something to a wider audience, and it might feel that might not be 100% confident in it, but they just know it needs to be said. We can do it, to have that faith that and also have faith that we do know, if we're connected to the wisdom of the heart and the higher heart, then let that come through the throat, the chakra. Now we're moving on to the third eye. The third eye is to do with perception, insight, seeing beyond what's immediately in front of us, hearing more than our ears are literally hearing, seeing truth as far as we are able. So there's something also in the fact that it is connected with the pituitary gland, which is part of the endocrine system, and that if that's functioning well, we are able to be clearer in our perception. If it is not functioning well, then it can create some kind of fog, really. So I think that's quite interesting. Anyway, right, looking at the general energy of the third eye, 5 of coins reversed. So it's as though it may feel difficult to see as much as we want to see, as though we really feel like, there is some confusion and other people can see, or it's like, but I'm being, or we're being shut out of the truth, or the perceptions that we want to have, the understandings that we want to have. Now, there is something about this card where it looks pretty dire, right? These characters are cold. One of them is wounded, and they're outside this window in the snow. Not a good situation at all. But there's something here about they need to find the door. They are able to get to that place that they want to get to. And so as we're in the third eye, it's like we can access that. And it may feel difficult, it may not feel possible, but again, we've Hangman reversed, we've got the opportunity. And harking back to the that coins card, I'm not very good at remembering the numbers if I haven't got them. Was it the 8? Anyway, the artisan, 7 or 8, I forget, making manufacturing, working on those coins. We have the time to remove ourselves from that position. And also there's a sense of owning our own power in this. There can be a sense of other people are locking us out. There are energies that are hiding things from us. Take that power back and recognize our ability to find that door, to find that clarity. So how do we do that? What do we do more of? We've got the Page of Cups and the 7 of Swords. Page of Cups, I love the Page of Cups. He's looking at a fish sticking out of his cup, and he's not throwing it up into the air and going, I've got a fish in my cup. He's looking at it like, that's kind of cool, that's weird, but interested. And youthful energy of pages, water, so emotions, things that might come up from unexpected areas. Maybe it's stuff that we kind of already know, but we haven't paid attention to, or it's felt too weird. But this is about welcoming the weird and being, taking joy in it. And there's also a sense of fun with this one, because that first card it's got very sort of heavy, serious energy. And this is like, no, take it, just be open to weird and wonderful stuff that we can then look at and don't discard immediately. Together there with the 7 of Swords, which is about sneakiness and theft. So So it belongs to us. We have all these abilities that we have allowed ourselves to believe that we don't have. It is very possible to connect with this, oh, it's all rubbish, third eye stuff. If you sense something, you're just imagining it, or even that you might be going insane, right? So there are narratives that can, in effect, steal our abilities away from us if we let them. So this is about not letting that happen. And in the position of what to do less of, we've got the Chariot reversed, which is an interesting one. There's something here about not allowing ourselves to just carry on regardless in a straight line. This time when I looked at it, and it's interesting, if you read the tarot, that different things come to our attention at different readings. So this time I was very much focused on the black and white of the sphinxes there. The world is not black and white. And the Chariot is an interesting card because at first glance, it looks as though this person is driving the chariot. They're in the kind of driving position, but if you look at their hands, they're not driving it. They are being driven, and they're being driven straight forward. They're not looking left or right. In this particular reading, and I'm going to now move on to the Hierophant. So in contrast to the Hierophant, who is a thinker, a philosopher perhaps, a holder of wisdom, the charioteer in the Chariot there is more of an athlete, and an athlete who is going in a particular direction that has been decided for him. So the Hierophant is looking in the same direction, but he's not moving, he's teaching. So carry on doing, listening. It's reversed, so these are both inner manifestations. It's like, listen to that wealth of knowledge that we actually have within us. Don't dismiss it. A lot of this, the energy for this third eye reading goes back to that Page of Cups. So yeah, he's youthful and he's looking at a weird fish sticking out of his cup, but the wisdom that the Hierophant holds can manifest like that, right? If it doesn't necessarily initially seem very logical or make sense. So that's what we've got for the third eye, to really acknowledge our abilities and our ownership of this energy, all of us. And here we're moving on to the crown. The crown is our gateway to the divine, our higher selves, and the higher realms in general. So it's a gateway that's right at the top of our heads. And what we have in the first position is the Ace of Coins. And I love this here. This is about how when we get inspiration, when we have communication, when we however that manifests, it could be that you go somewhere, you do a really nice meditation or something, and you either just get a feeling or there's just this sense of connecting with our expanded beings, which we're so encouraged in this world to completely ignore, and then we go home and leave it all behind like it was a nice holiday. This is like, no, this is earth energy. Bring it into the physical. We are being given opportunities all the time when we connect to them. First of all, we need to notice them in order to connect to them. So see the opportunities. They are there. The inspirations that might just be like an idea popping in out of nowhere. It's like, bring it into our reality, and make it real. And on quite a grandiose level, it's bringing the divine to earth. This is about creating the new earth, and really on a very grounded, real way. And Next to that, we've got do more of. This is probably the fastest moving card in the whole tarot. It's moving forwards, and it's fueled by fire, our inspiration, what gives us passion. So from that inspiration, that divine inspiration, however it comes in, is we bring it in, and move forward with it. Don't hold back right now. And then we've got do less of. Looks a bit dire, doesn't it? So we've got a woman sort of surrounded by swords, blindfolded and bound up next to the devil. Lovely. But if you look closely, I always think of them as bandages. I don't know what they actually are, but they look like bandages that she's got around her. They're very loose, and she can't see, sure, because she's got a blindfold on. But she could just wiggle out of those bandages very easily and remove her own blindfold, right? So this is about sort of understanding. It's the mental body, it's our intellect more than anything else, also communication. And the devil energy, although many people are scared of this card, there's no need to be scared of it. It's about an energy of bondage, of unhealthy relationships, which can manifest as actual relationships. So it could be on an individual level, relationships that we're actually in, but it could also be on a global level, that there are some people who, for their own advantage, like to hold other people in some form of servitude. We know that goes on and has gone on for a very long time. Can also manifest as addictions, right? So any kind of relationship that at the root of it binds us to denser energies. And when I say denser energies, I mean those that keep us kind of mired in things like possibly despair or anger. Or fear is a great one. Fear is one of the best ways to shut down people's perceptions, their ability to create, their ability to see beyond. So it feels like a pulling down. And that can be something as simple as constantly listening to the news, watching movies. There's so much talk about programming in movies, the constant chatter on the internet, the fear porn. There's many choices, and even just traveling around, we're bombarded with adverts, with noise. There's the worry, genuine worries, of course, about just surviving, earning enough money, getting enough food, and there's enough people who are literally unsafe. And we are reminded to connect to that all the time. Are we all doomed? Global warming, and that is an aspect of the energy of the devil which blindfolds us. It really does, and keeps us feeling bound, like we can't see and we can't move. So we do less of that. We move away from that. And when we look at what we can carry on doing, is carry on connecting to our own North Stars, right? Our own guiding stars. It's a very pure energy. It's also a number that's further along the journey. It's called sometimes the hero's journey, sometimes the fool's journey, than the devil is. Star trumps devil. That's always good to know, isn't it? So connecting to our inner, I keep referring to this, but it's because, especially because we've got that hanged man contextualizing everything. This whole spread is an invitation to keep doing that. And it does need diligence. Like a lot of these energies, like we talk about inspiration, we talk about connecting to the heart, and talk about our own inner wisdom and stuff. And sometimes because they tend to be often associated with the lighter, fluffier things, it's as though, they'll just come in, or they're like little fairies sort of floating around, and they're not usually associated with discipline. But there is a discipline involved in taking our attention away from that devil energy, that energy of binding us to that which is not in our best interest, and almost like wrenching it away sometimes, because the invitations can be very strong so that we can see that light of the star. The stars are not as bright as the sun. We need, say we just go out and our eyes we've been inside for a while, right? Our eyes need to adjust to be able to see the stars. And so it is, you know, we need to take that time and make that decision to do it. And that is what we're being invited to do. Right. Now we're moving on to the out-of-body energy centers. So we've got the causal, which is behind the head, the soul star, a little bit above our crown, the stellar gateway, which is above that again. And then we'll move to those that are beneath our feet. So this is where it's already interesting. It gets even more interesting. So for the causal, now the causal is a chakra which is kind of like a gateway to spiritual information, and that can be from past lives, literally if you believe in guides and getting messages from the spiritual realms, then this is it's almost like a switchboard center, if you like. They don't necessarily all come into there, but that's one can think of it as that's how they come in ways that we can digest and understand them. So it is also useful for clearing old traumas and wounds and so on. So here we are, causal. We've got the Five of Swords and the Devil at this energy. So when I saw this, I was like, what am I supposed to say about this? Five of Swords is deception, and there's kind of it's post-fight, isn't it? It tends to be this one. There aren't that many winners in a fight like this. The sky is quite stormy, and good old devil again, so about servitude and bondage and so on. So there is something about being aware of interference, and that interference can be exactly what we were just talking about, you know, fear, porn. And actually, I didn't mention in the last chakra, actual porn is a very heavy energy that is takes away from an awareness of the sacred nature of sexual energy, which, yes, can be about sex, sure, but it's also to do with that and connected to that incredible creativity of the sacral, right? So I forgot to mention that, sorry. So, but here we've got, interference. Now, what I could do here is go off on some kind of tangent about where that interference is coming from, for what purpose. I don't think it actually helps us. It's almost irrelevant. And also, if we start to delve into that, it gives it more attention, right? And when we give things more attention, that's where our energy goes, and we do not want our energy to go there. It's a way of depleting our energy. It's a form of energy theft. So an awareness of it is enough. So we do need to be discerning. And what helps us with that? Let's look at what to do more of. We've got really good dynamic duo here, King of Coins, King of Swords. So we've got that grounded energy of the King of Coins. He's very stable, very secure. He knows exactly where he is, and he's I don't know if it makes sense, but I think he's possibly the most regal out of all of them. So he can be a bit pompous and a bit annoying, but very stable and a good energy to connect to in this area. Also, King of Swords. We've had the Queen of Swords. I can't even remember if we've had the King of Swords yet. But the no bullshit guy. This is the guy you want with you in a meeting if you're not sure if you can trust everybody there, or if you want some help in just making sense of a whole load of confusion being thrown at you. So the two of them together, you've got immense stability and surety. You know, there's a heaviness about the King of Coins, very earthed, grounded. And then the King of Swords, which is like, don't feed me a whole load of crap, because I'm going to see right through it. So air, acuity, again, just an ability to be very, very sharp mentally there. So very useful in practicing discernment. What is true? What is important to me? What do I need to connect to here? And yes, we can see through any kind of dust clouds being thrown up to try and obscure what it is that we actually want to be able to connect to. What to do less of. The Fool again. So in this area, do not trust blindly. Do not have blind faith. It's a beautiful energy to have, incredibly beautiful in many contexts, but not in this one, not right now, for whatever reason. And we don't even, I'm sorry about these things. I have turned everything off that I was able to turn off, but something's still getting through. Anyway, apologies. So the Fool. No, we do in this area, we do need to practice discernment, and that can also be receiving our own messages, yes, but receiving or hearing messages from others too. Be very careful, I suppose, and really check within. Is this really is this a message of integrity? Is it something I want to listen to? Is it something that I want to connect to? And this may feel hard. We're looking at the last card here, the Ten of Wands. Now, this is this character is carrying those sticks, and because he's carrying those sticks, it's kind of hard to move forward. Not only are they heavy and cumbersome, but can't see, but he can drop them, right? No one else is holding them, it's him. So there's an awareness of that we are able to do this. We're able to, and I don't often use this phrase in a reading, but right here it makes sense. There's something about powering through, because it's a 10 to it's the end of a cycle. So on some level, we are at the end of a cycle. There's not much more to learn here. We are preparing to move into the next one, which will feel different, which will feel lighter, and now we'll be more aware of the opportunities and the optimism and so on. So there's a sense here of just keep going and be aware that, and this could be different time-wise for different people, different communities. We are at the stage of being ready to drop that bundle of wands and move on to be able to connect to that fiery, beautiful Ace of Wands again, which is to do with, or the Ace of Cups, depends which way you want to read it. But either way, beautiful opportunities, inspirations. Yeah, just keep going. Now we're at the Soul Star. The Soul Star is our connection to the higher realms, and they're similar. They're not all mutually exclusive, these energy centers. They work together. So there's a lot of energy here to do with our purpose, our guidance, understanding, information. There's connections to the Akashic records, for so on, and interesting cards in the first place: the King of Swords and the Devil together. So there are a number of ways to read this. I'd say there's always something about be careful, be discerning, like it was for the causal, and they're not unconnected. So again, it's going to become clearer and clearer where there's interference. And again, we don't need to focus, I don't believe, for the purposes of this reading anyway, and that question about how do we move into a more exalted state, all of us, which isn't quite how I put it, but something along those lines, right? So just this clarity of where we're being encouraged to connect over and over again with those denser energies, those energies which seek to slow everything down. You know, as I'm looking at this card now, the king, the air is quite a fast moving element, or can be. Think about wind, it blows away the clouds and the dust and so on, whereas the devil energy is very heavy, and there can be something quite stultifying about it. So a sort of wish for things to just sink into a sense of inertia and despair, really. But no, we're able to see that more and more, and therefore make choices. So in order to help us, what can we do more of? The Knight of Wands. So a sort of an energy of movement, of fire, of again being guided by the gut and passion and a sense of what's right and a sense of purpose. So don't overthink things, but again, it's about listening to what we know and what to do less of. We've got the star reversed. And so we've had the star before, and this idea of having our own guidance within us, right? Our own North Star. And we can very easily feel disconnected from that, especially if the devil energy has its way. So it's to remove ourselves from that sense of disconnect, perhaps even a belief that we are disconnected. It's like, no, we're not. A star, like I said, it's not as bright as the sun. Even though what we know they are, we know that in the way that we understand stars, they're immensely bright, and our sun is a star. But what I mean is that when we look at stars from where we are on the planet, they're a different light. They're the sort of silvery, they're not so much in your face. So they need to be looked for. And if we believe that we don't have that connection, then we don't look. So let's give up the idea that we don't have that connection, because we do, and carry on doing. Ace of Cups again. So carry on connecting to our intuition, to our we can call it the unconscious, but it's the unconscious on an individual level. But also, of course, there's the collective unconscious. There's this sort of wealth of experience. And if we talk in a more expanded way, you know, there's the wealth of experience of our ancestors that we all carry within us. There is past life experience. There's the wisdom of the earth herself, right, to connect to that and allow it to fountain up into our awareness. But also, great card, Seven of Cups, choose wisely. You know, there are things that may seem attractive that are not, and the devil energy would love to confuse us in this way. And there are things that are available to us, that are useful to us. But again, pause, use our discernment. Discernment, really important right now. So now what we're going to do is move on to the stellar gateway. And this energy center is our ultimate connection to the divine, to source, to whatever you want to call it. You could call it God. Holds our soul energy and the sum of all our experience. So again, very powerful energy center, but aren't they all in their own ways? So in the place of the general energy for this chakra is the moon reversed. And that's a card that indicates, again, the potential for confusion. There can be a dreamlike state to the moon. So there is a connection with the unconscious, but these things can seem different. All things can seem different in the light of the moon. There's also a potential sense of anxiety, maybe, of wondering whether things are real or whether they're illusion. Am I making things up? So there's something about paying attention, and Hanged Man Reversed gives us the opportunity to do so, to really try and figure this out. And the more we pay attention and allow things to become clearer, the more we can become privy to and understand and liberate ourselves, as it were, not only from confusion, but by sometimes being driven by things that we have not paid attention to, and so therefore might not be either not fully aware of or not aware of at all. So there's something about give it the space. And then what we have in the position of what we can do more of is the World Reversed. The World is the final card on the Fool's Journey, and it's like completion. You know, we have everything we need. Everything we need, we have within us. And it is really important to remember that, because it's very easy to either believe or allow ourselves to be persuaded that we don't know enough. You know, we're not wise enough. We need to jump through more hoops, become better, do another course, learn this thing, learn that thing. We have everything within us. So even if there is an interruption to connections, perhaps even with each other, or it feels harder for some reason at sometimes to connect with our higher selves and beyond, we can come back to the absolute knowledge that everything we need, we have together, actually, and individually. So what do we do less of? The Seven of Swords. We do less of stealing that away from ourselves. So no imposter syndrome. You know, there's so much about I'm not good enough. So we're talking about quite elevated concepts, aren't we? Like sort of expanded awareness and connection to our higher selves, connection to source. And then we can go, what, who, me? Little old me? No, I'm not good enough. So this is about what we need to do less of right now, because we cannot connect to the idea that we have all the resources, everything that we need, if we believe that we're not good enough. Easy to say, I know. But we can make it a virtuous or a vicious cycle. Vicious cycle is I'm not good enough, therefore I start doubting, therefore I know less, therefore I've persuaded myself very well that I'm not good enough. Virtuous cycle is more like I do connect to that within me. Even though I may have doubts, I believe it, and then the doubts become less, and the knowing becomes clearer. And what do we carry on doing? Do you remember we had this guy before, planning a journey? In that context, it was think before you speak. But here it's about an internal orientation. It's like where is my true north, and how do I keep on track? So it's a still energy, right? So again, there's nothing here about forging ahead. There's nothing about huge speed. There is a sense of stillness and contemplation, and that is what will help things become clearer. Now, there's something that's quite interesting that happened, because when I first pulled the cards, which was some days ago, I spent a long time getting familiar with them and really connecting with what the messages are. But I recorded my initial responses, and then what I did to help me out was I played the recording, and on my computer I set a dictation thing to take down notes, which I could then go through and sort out. And what happened was, for this card, I let it run and left the room. It missed it out, so it didn't just stop recording. It didn't record this bit and then carried on recording, which was really weird. And when that happens, I go, well, I better be careful to include it then. So there's something also, partly because that happened, but it is in the cards too, of not allowing our absolute right, I suppose. This is to do with sovereignty apart from anything else. Do not let that be stolen. And the only way we can let that be stolen is by believing that it is not ours in the first place, right? So that Seven of Swords is about that. So anyway, I think I've said what needs to be said there. So what we're going to do now is go from the very highest chakra in this sort of vertical column to the one that's beneath our feet, the Earth Star. And this is interesting because I ended up with 5 cards for what's in the first position, which was really weird. And I kept checking, okay, what, another card? And I actually got out my pendulum and was going, this is unusual. But no, it was correct. And it does actually make good sense, which is, so it's fascinating what we've got here. So Earth Star. So this is the grounding point for the whole chakra system and the whole etheric body. So it holds a lot of information. That's more, rather than information from, higher self and guides and other beings in other dimensions, say this is about our ancestral and our soul history. It's very earthed. It can also hold stagnant or suppressed energy. So it can be a bit like a drain, so heavier energies can sort of drain through us and sort of be taken into the earth to be transmuted. But our earth stars can get clogged up so that it doesn't allow that flow, not only for energy to descend into the earth. And it's not only negative energy, it's our entire energy column, right, which goes all the way down into the earth. So that can become blocked, but there's also then something about accessing the energy that comes up into our systems from beneath our feet. So it's a really important chakra. So on this sort of global level, what we've got the Emperor and the Devil and the Knight of Cups and the Tower and the Ace of Wands. So 3 major arcana cards in that initial position. So something significant going on here. So what I'm going to do is look at the Emperor and the Devil together. And that is, to my mind, the unhealed divine masculine. Now, the healed divine masculine is wonderful because it can give direction. There's an aspect of nurture, like it's a very holding energy. So the creativity of the divine feminine is held and directed and balanced when there's a healthy divine masculine energy present, right? So we want both. But here we've got the Emperor energy, and the Emperor can, when it's unhealed, the Emperor can be dictatorial, controlling, cruel, and not connected to the emotional world or the inner world at all. And you can almost imagine a random emperor, some mythical emperor being bound by this devil energy that is quite happy, to keep the emperor in that kind of state, because through then that rule, which we could kind of put together with the way that the patriarchy has manifested in this somewhat, I'm being polite, somewhat unhealthy way, increasingly so, that serves that energy of bondage, right, of unhealthy relationships with each other, where we are set against each other. The emperor doesn't need to go to war because we're going to do it for him, just by being under this kind of oppressive rule of bondage, really, of suppression. So what happens next then? So we've got that, which is very stagnant. Look, both those figures are looking straight out at us. Neither of them are moving. They're perfectly happy where they are. Very heavy and very stagnant. But oh, look, we've got the Knight of Cups, which when he appeared before, he was a bit head in the clouds and kind of stuff. But this one, because he's in this position, this is somebody who's moving into the future. He's got his heart in his hands, and that is what he's being led by. He's moving. He's not giving that Emperor energy next to the Devil energy any attention. He's given it just enough attention to know that, no, we're going to move away from that. And he is able, because he's being guided by his heart, to move towards the tower without fear. All right. Now, the tower can be a little bit scary because it's somewhat chaotic. It involves change. We're in the area of the Earth star. It's something that can almost shake our foundations, right? So when our foundations are shaken, that can be scary, like an earthquake. That's not the happiest kind of thing to, I'm not going to put it on my Christmas list, put it that way. Oh, I'd love an earthquake. No. But what it also can do, if we talk about or refer back to how I talked about how the Earth star can become like a blocked drain, right? There's something here about, well, that maybe shaking things up, which might not feel that comfortable for a while, might unblock that and allow things to flow again and end up with the opportunities, with that Ace of Wands. So, I mean, look at the symbology of that. There's a wand, but it's got little leaves and shoots all over it. And it's about when the knight moves away from the stagnant heavy energy and is not afraid of the change, then he can move straight through it to see and grasp eventually those shoots of new opportunity. And it's a very optimistic card, that. So carrying on, we've got the Page of Wands. So again, that fire energy, the wand. So he's also looking towards the future, youthful. He's led by his heart, his gut. He's youthful. He's fired up. He's looking at the shoots on the wand, and I don't know how long he's going to stand there, but he'll move forward eventually in the direction that he's facing. So he, again, these when I laid them out were all in one long line as the others. I just couldn't fit them on. So in that same direction into the future. An interesting one for what to do less of, the Lovers. And the Lovers can be a wonderful card. There's a lot of symbology in the Lovers. So when I looked at it, I thought, oh, why is that in the position of what to do less of? And I think there's something here about the distractions that are available to us. Looking at that Emperor and that Devil energy there. So even though there's the potential in the Lovers for beautiful union, even divine union, and there's something here about moving the unconscious into the conscious and then the super conscious. We've got healing, that's Archangel Raphael there. There's a lot of beauty in there. There's also the potential to be bogged down, and I say bogged down very deliberately because it's again a temptation into those denser energies. Yeah, temptation. We've got the snake there, we've got the apples, into remaining in the profane at the cost of the conscious and the super conscious, and the sort of enlightenment that we need in order to proceed, going back again to our original question. So that can look like kind of sexual or sex without love. There's a sort of phallic mountain in the background there, the temptation of just becoming obsessed by the profane. And it's like a plugging up or clogging up of the creativity of that sexual energy. So no, do less. We need to do less of that. So we need that the Knight of Cups and the Ace of Wands and the Page of Wands, and then we've got carry on doing. We are moving to something new. Now this, even though it looks quite melancholy, it can be a lovely card. So we have got these figures who are perhaps leaving under a cloud, leaving with a sense of regret, harking back to that figure of mourning earlier on. the cups. I think it was the 5 of Cups. So it is necessary sometimes to mourn, but this card is about moving to somewhere new. There's a very definite direction here. So even though some of this here is being shown as outside of our control, the Tower, for instance, and perhaps there was not a sort of joyous jumping into a boat and going, yay, we're going to shores anew, but nevertheless, we are going to shores anew. And in a very fundamental way, if you think about this is the Earth star. So there's movement happening here, and we have guidance about how to navigate it, right? So now we're on to the final one, the Dolphin Matrix, which is even more of a deep connection. It's beneath the Earth star. So it's like really this connection to ancient wisdom, the deep ancestors. And there's also a connection with a support to any physical changes and expansion that may be happening to us as humanity. Right, so we've got in the position of the general energy, the Ace of Swords. So beginnings, new opportunities, beginnings of understanding, beginnings of knowledge or opportunities for either new knowledge or more knowledge, and maybe also an understanding of a different kind of communication it's as though we can start to hear the communication that kind of reverberates through the earth, the sort of thrumming of the earth, the actual, maybe the earth's heartbeat, or through the atmosphere, not just through words, right? So there's something very inspirational about this, but perhaps we need to listen and to feel what that is, tune in. So what can we do more of here? 2 of Wands again, reversed. So inner compass, where do we want to go? Where do we want to go, and how do we want to get there? So something about not moving too fast, not moving without thinking or planning, patience and consideration and preparation. And then we've got what to do less of. So we don't need to block ourselves off from our ancestral wisdom. It's time to let those sticks go. It's reversed here. You can see if he lets them go, they'll just fly off up into the air. It's even easier than it is when he's the right way up. It's time. It is time to let go, and it's time to step into that next cycle. We are ready. The opportunity, look at that ace, the opportunity is there. So what do we carry on doing? The Emperor again, but this time the Emperor is with the Hierophant. So this is an Emperor who perhaps is, because both the Emperor and actually the Hierophant can be quite dry. They can be quite dogmatic, and they're not necessarily the most flexible energies. So that's interesting to have here. There's something quite stabilizing perhaps about having a connection to definitely masculine energy. So something about not just going off willy-nilly in an explosion of excitement and creativity, but, you know, connecting to, as we're in the Dolphin Matrix, what is our ancestral wisdom? You know, what is it that our ancestors might be able to give us in terms of guidance, perhaps even warnings or information? They're pretty powerful, and they can also inform that 2 of Wands earlier on. And they can, I'm just looking at those notes that I referred to earlier. There's something I wrote that, yes, they can help us translate what we feel, because when we connect to energies like ancestral wisdom or like the energy of the earth itself, it might not be in a language that we understand easily to begin with. And that organizing energy of those, of the Emperor and the Hierophant, it can help us make sense of what it is that we're connecting to. And that what happens here and in the Earth Star supports everything that happens above. I mean, they do all influence and support each other, all these energies that I've been talking about. But there's something quite fundamental about what is holding us beneath our feet that needs to be paid attention to. Okay, so that's all the chakras. But what I'm going to do now is take a break. And then what we're going to do is look at the groups of them. So the lower body, the bridge between lower and upper, the upper body, and then the outer body chakras as groups. Okay. Right, back again, and we're going to finish up by looking at these cards in groups. So starting with the lower body chakras. And if we look at the very first card that we started this whole reading with, the Four of Swords reversed, and how it connects with the opportunities afforded by that Hanged Man reversed, it's quite interesting to note that that's how this whole reading started. It's like the cornerstone of everything else that follows. So it's like using the opportunity of whatever pause, whether that's a willing pause or not, to look at things in new ways, to allow ourselves to see things differently. And there we've got that Four of Swords that says, take the time to really think, be still and think. And yes, it's about thinking, it's air, it's the mental body, but also a connection with a higher guidance. So we're right at the bottom of the bodily chakras, but there is the stained glass window there is a connection to the higher ones too. None of these energy centers work in isolation. It's like water flowing through a series of pools. And so they are all connected and they do all feed each other. So we're at the root, we're thinking, but it is connected with the higher ones, you know, just let it be fueled by a higher perspective. And there's this recognition of us as those people who are of the land, right? Looking at the energy of the wands and how we need to stand our ground together, need to, when we know what's right, to just be able to defend ourselves from being dissuaded from it, at the same time knowing that it's not about winning, it's not about defeating anybody, it's not about needing to be right at the expense of anybody else. It's not about that. And there's also the sense of leaving whatever emotional baggage behind that we have used, again, that pause and that contemplation to sort out as far as we can. And then jumping up to the solar plexus, there's this awareness here, an invitation to become aware of how we do need to look after our own energy. It's up to us. We can do it, but it takes care. It takes some patience, some diligence, and some discipline, and a willingness to take responsibility for that, right? But even though I'm talking about, you know, taking time out, think hard, and there's diligence and discipline, there's some beautiful energies here to connect to. Look at the joy in that 10 of Cups right up at the top there. The beauty of that strength card, about having an awareness that not to underestimate our own strength there. And yes, we've got the Tower. So all of the other cards are within our control. These are decisions we can make, intentions we can have. The Tower card is different. This is something that will, you know, that happens externally, that we're exposed to or we come across. But then we've got that beautiful High Priestess energy, giving us an indication of how to meet that. And this isn't new after all. We've had it's in the area of the navel, so how we connect to each other. So we've had a lot of changes that we've already met. So it is in the position of carry on, right? This isn't brand new to us. And then we move on to the high heart and the heart. And again, look at that, the strength, the beautiful strength of the heart, reminding us how much wisdom there is, how much we can connect to our own strength there. All of this is individually and as community. But again, look at those 7, 8, the guy working on the coins anyway. I'm not very good with the numbers with some of these, but the diligence and the care, you know, we're taught from a young age to connect with the language of the head, with words, with thoughts, that the intellect reigns supreme. So it takes some care, it takes some practice, it takes some time to connect with that, the wisdom of the heart and the language of the heart. The heart has a language, but it's quieter, and it's like learning any language. You just need to practice to understand it and to speak it, for that matter. And again, there's the grounding of the king, and looking at the high heart, again, all within our control, connecting to the innocence of the inner child, the purity of that, the beautiful energy of that empress there, with temperance, creating a balance with mourning and moving into the future without over romanticizing things. The inner child is innocent, but does not have its head in the cloud. You know, children are very grounded, aren't they? They communicate with their whole bodies, but they communicate very directly. They haven't learned subterfuge yet, right? And this Knight of Cups in this position, that's learned a certain degree of perhaps being able to, the head in the clouds is kind of nice sometimes, but not here. We're advised not to. Much better to have that insightful, penetrating gaze of the Queen of Swords. Now we're moving up again. Most of this within our control. In fact, no, I take that back, all of it within our control again. So think before we speak. The Empress and the Six of Cups again with the Hierophant. I mean, yeah, I don't want to repeat myself too much. Yes, we begin to get some less savory energy in the crown there, but there's a reminder that we don't need to connect with it. We are not bound. We may feel we are. We may feel we're disconnected from the higher aspects of ourselves and beyond, either because we're persuaded that it's all stupid, it's all nonsense, or because we feel we're not capable, whatever. But we can unbind ourselves from that relatively easily. And similarly with the third eye, the sense of maybe not being able to see everything we want to see, or the sense that there's some kind of barrier there. There's very clear indications of how to find that door. It is within us to be able to do that, right? But it's only here where we start to see some external interference. So we're looking at the Soul Star and the Causal, that devil energy with the King of Swords and with the Five of Swords. And I think I did say it when we were talking about each of the energy centers, but it's worth repeating. There, it is interference, and it is very useful to be aware of it. And that King of Swords may indicate that we are becoming more aware of it. I think we have been, and that looks like it's going to continue. But not to put too much attention there, right? Because if we put our attention into what's not right, what's interference, what we don't want, it doesn't even matter if it's what we might classify as useful attention or good attention or bad attention. It's all attention and therefore energy. And that's then energy that is not being put into the areas that actually can serve us. So yes, be aware, but don't focus on it. Doesn't, in this context, in relation to this question for this reading anyway, it doesn't really make that much difference whether it's deliberate, who's doing it, where it's coming from. It's just be aware of it and then focus on what is useful to focus on, right? And choose wisely. Discernment, very important, but keep going. Things may feel heavy, but keep going. We're there, and if we're not quite there, then we're very nearly there. The new cycle is emerging. We are emerging into the new cycle, either way. And then look, it's as though almost there's a bit of a fug of interference at the Causal and the Soul Star. So some interference with information. You can think of it almost as a stream of kind of information going through the airways, but then if we can navigate through that, which we can, then at the stellar gateway, there isn't any of that. Still some confusion, yes, with the moon energy, but that's more along the lines of when we discover things. I don't know if you can see it clearly. The card's upside down, but there's a crayfish there that's emerging from the water. Now, when things emerge that we're not familiar with, especially in the moonlight, they can look kind of weird, and they may even freak us out a bit. But we have the world, you know, we have the world, and it is so beautiful that this is right at the top there. We have everything we need, and it is indicated, and I feel it very strongly, that it is not helpful to allow that understanding to be stolen. And it's not even as though anybody's doing the stealing. You know, there might be persuasion, there might be programming, but it's only us that allows it to happen, right? It's the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, that I'm making it up. So no. And at the top right corner, then we've got that guy, the Two of Wands, sort of looking out into the future again, planning, where do I want to go, from a fairly elevated position, right? The stellar gateway. So we're going to end up by looking at the ones beneath our feet. And then there's this extraordinary lot of 5 cards for the Earth Star. Quite major stuff, got 3 major arcana cards there. Very dense energy, some change that might be quite extreme, it might not be, but look at the guidance. The guidance is that the knight who in this position is not got his head in the clouds, he's following his heart, so he's going straight for change, because he knows that it is through change that we get those opportunities that are afforded by that Ace of Wands there. Really lovely. Same direction, the Page of Wands. If we don't allow ourselves to get distracted by the more profane and denser elements of that Lover's card, we move forward. Perhaps it's not all joyful, perhaps there's some regrets. Of course, there's always going to be the possibility of being sad about leaving the familiar, but it is going into a particular direction. So the world, our foundations may feel shaky, and that can be that can feel uncomfortable, right? But we have got this way through. And then beneath that, we've got again a much calmer energy. So it's as though there's this sort of layer right beneath our feet and right above our heads, but if we get through in both directions, then things are much clearer. So we've got that opportunity there again with another ace, the Ace of Swords, that understanding, the clarity, the being able to release those sticks, let them go, move into that next cycle. And then there's quite holding energy of those two in relatively healthy positions here, I'd say. Well, yeah, healthy aspects of the divine masculine, kind of giving direction and holding the space. So this is right at the bottom. So even though the that 4 of Swords was the beginning card, it's not at the bottom of this sort of vertical axis of the whole reading. So I'd say this is the last card, the Hierophant and the Emperor. Oh, I'll put them both, the last cards. So a very strong energy. So there's a sort of cornerstone of, when we look at what the Dolphin Matrix connects to, that real deep, the ancient ancestral wisdom. That's a pretty solid foundation. So we just need to remember that is available to us, as is that world right in the top. So even though things may not feel all like time to dance and celebrate, there's some really beautiful energy here. So I'm going to finish up by saying Happy New Year. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's been of some interest, and thank you for listening. Bye for now.